people maybe they're just too it's too late to do or something. I don't know. Okay, yeah. So welcome again. Sorry, my camera doesn't work. I'll get it fixed by next week, hopefully. So you might just be talking to like a blank screen today. I apologize. But um, so yeah, welcome. This is the last class of this again of this module. So starting next week, we'll get started into like the um, I guess the advanced section, and the advanced section is mostly just a bunch of problems. And then you guys will just get into the next stage of programming. Well, not really the next stage of programming, like one of the many next stages of programming. Like it's not like how do I say it? Like it's not the only path of programming that you can take. Like let me just go back to the here, maybe this way. Let me go back to um the roadmap that I made. So you can see that like there's a lot of programming like paths that you can take, but the thing I just chose is this because this is kind of like it's like one of the more common paths people take, I guess. Not really common. It's supposed to like since you guys are all in school right now, like middle school, elementary school maybe even high school, I don't know. Um like this is what a good amount of people do, and I think it's pretty fun. Um the next office hour. I actually no, I don't can't remember what I put it as. I'll get back to you on that question. But this the next module is one of the sections I think might be more fun. Well, not okay. It's kind of hard to word, but like I feel like it applies more to what we learned. Um, so the next module, I'm just gonna say it might be pretty hard and it might be a little bit frustrating, but I just want you guys to know like, if it gets hard, like just please don't feel discouraged. Like don't give up on coding and stuff. It's gonna be a little challenging, a little frustrating, but I think it's like very fulfilling once you get a problem solved. Like it's like a lot of happiness that you get, and I just like this section because you're directly applying what you learned in this class, so it's like immediately like you don't really have to learn anything else except for maybe some like logical thinking, but it's just like it directly applies to what we learned in this class or in this module. So, like you can also, of course, go into web and game development. You can also go into like, the AI, machine learning, like robotics, whatever you guys want. Like, computer science is a very, very broad field. So, algorithms is not the only thing, that computer science consists of, but we're just gonna move on to this section because we're able to directly apply the knowledge we learned in this module in algorithms. So that's why we're moving to algorithms in case you guys are still confused, like, or still wondering, like, um, why exactly, we're going to algorithms. And again, it's gonna be fun. I'll just say that's gonna be fun. So, yeah, let me just. So today, we're not gonna do. There's like nothing new that we're gonna learn. We're just gonna like quickly review everything that we learned in this class. So these notes probably will be probably your go-to notes. If you guys want to just review anything from the class you made, because it's just every single thing we learned just compiled into um like a bunch of slides. So I'm just gonna quickly go over it, and then we're actually gonna get into our final project. And yeah, I'm gonna give you guys like a quick congratulations on how finishing the first module, and we're gonna move on to the second module. It's gonna be pretty fun. So hopefully you guys are excited about that. Um, so yeah, let's just review the entire module one. So you you just want to like list out like a bunch of stuff that you remember, like what have we learned from like the many weeks that we were together. Like what do you guys remember? Like just anything, like anything is fine. Else if, yeah. Yeah, we learned about else if, like get conditionals, like the if, else. Yeah, we learned about that. That's cool. Yeah, yeah, conditions, like yeah. We learned about like, the bigger than, less than, bigger than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to, all that stuff, yeah. It's good. Yeah, inputting, list, dictionary. Yeah. Yeah, that's of course. Yeah, we definitely learned that. Like we learned about inputs a lot. We did some practice with lists. You had one homework assignment on dictionaries. Hopefully you guys did the homework. And then append, yeah, for loops, while loops, all that. Yeah, integer. Yeah, yeah. Everything before class 5. Yeah. I mean there's like more stuff after class 5, but yeah. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, you guys seem to remember a good amount of stuff. So let's just go over what do we learn in class 1, right? In class 1, we learned about, well, variables, printing inputs, right? So remember, there are 5 types of variables that we learned in this class, and there are only really 5 types of variables that you'll need to know for now, right? So the 5 types again are integers, which are just like, they're your whole numbers, right? Like 1, 2, like 3,879. Doesn't really matter, right? It's just any whole number, right? Any whole number. Okay, so and the floats, remember floats are just a decimal or a fraction, right? So we can like 3 divided by 2, 4.5, 9.7. Doesn't really matter, right? It's just a decimal or a fraction, right? And then strings, remember strings are just anything with quotation marks inside of it, right? So anytime you see something with a quotation mark, or anytime you see something that's a word, it's gonna be a string, right? So a string could be like, the character one. And the only reason this is a string and not an integer is because it has these quotation marks around it, right? And also give me like hi. And every single word is gonna be a string. So just keep that in mind. And be like, whatever, right? Anything with quotation marks is a string, right? Booleans, remember, Booleans can only have 2 values. It's just true or false. That's it, true and false. Right. And then data structures as well. We learned about data structures, like there are about 4 types of data structures, right? We have the lists, which are the brackets, right? The map, the dictionary and the set, right? Which are both represented as brackets, but like a set, remember, a set is just a list that can't have duplicates, right? And then we also learned about the tuple, and then a dictionary, which makes it as a key, and there's like a value, right? There's like a value, a key, a value pair. Remember? Hopefully you guys remember those. I know it's like a lot to take in, and it's like a lot. So hopefully you guys um like kind of understand um at least these data structures because they're really important, and also like loops as well and things like that. So, and we also learned about like naming things, right? Like we want to name our things to be meaningful, right? Like if we had a list, we probably want to make it like name it like, okay, maybe like not a list, like if we had like a variable and that variable stored like your name, right? You would probably just name your variable like my name, right? And usually when we're naming things, right? We, oh, the variable names can't have spaces, so they have to be in like one whole like character. So if you want to include spaces, like if you want 2 words in your thing, you can put an underscore, and then you do like my name. That's how most programmers put an underscore. So that's like my name, yeah. And like if I wanted to put like my friend's name, I wouldn't, name it my name. I'd probably name it like my friend's name or something. My friend name, something like that, right? Not like my name, right? So remember, make your variable names meaningful. You remember your 5 types of variables, right? And then we also learned about printing, right? Printing is probably just the most simple thing you can do in Python, right? You print something and it'll show up on the console, right? You can like print a string, you can print a variable, you can print an integer, doesn't really matter, right? So remember when you print a variable, you're printing the value stored inside of the variable, right? Okay, I'm gonna say when you print a variable, you're printing the value stored inside of the variable, or like the data type stored inside of the variable, right? And also inputs, right? Inputs allow us to make the program more interactive. Hopefully you guys had enough practice with inputs by now, right? All we're kind of doing is just when we put in an input, it will show something up on the console on the console. And when we type something in and we click enter, right, it'll get stored into the variable where the input was, right? So hopefully you guys remember how inputs work by now. But luckily in the next module, you're not gonna have to use inputs a lot because the variables will be given to you. And all you're gonna do is basically just take some things and then just change them, like do something with them and get like another output. and it'll be pretty fun. But luckily, and maybe it's a good thing for you guys, you won't have to use any inputs for the next module. But it's just good to know. Okay, so class two, we learned about like the math operators, right? Like we learned about, the add, subtract, multiply, divide. And then we also learned about some more complex operators like the float division, the modulus, and the power signs. So who remembers what like a modulus sign does? Like what does this do? Do you guys still remember or maybe forgot? Okay, so maybe we can like just go over it. So remember, um, yeah, yeah, modulus is the remainder. So good job. So modulus, when you take the modulus of something, you're basically returning the remainder, right? So can everyone tell me what like five, like what remainder will you get from five divided by two? One, right? So five mod two is just one, right? And then if you guys don't remember how to get the remainder, right? Remember, we can just do this. We're trying to see how many whole numbers can fit into like 13, right? Now we're just saying, okay, when we're doing like this, we're basically asking ourselves, um, how many fours can fit into 13 without going over? And then we're gonna take that number left over, right? So how we do it is, when you were first doing like division, right, you're just kind of like you probably just did this, right? So what we do is okay, how many fours can fit into 13 without going over? Well, three fours, right? That'll give us 12. Right, we subtract, right? Now we have one, right? How many fours can fit into one without going over? Well, zero. And once we say, okay, no more can fit without going over, then this number that we have is our remainder, right? That means 13 mod 4, since the remainder is 1, it's just 1. Because modulus gives us the remainder. Okay. So is modulus good? Are we all familiar with modulus? That maybe it might have been like a little confusing. It's like just learned about. But hopefully you guys are okay with modulus. Okay. I think you guys, yeah, okay. I think you guys are good. And then we also learned about, float division. Just remember, float division is just divide and round down. Right. Okay, we also learned a lot about string operators. So when we add strings together, we can only add like strings together, right? You can't have like a string plus an integer, right? Or like a string plus like a float or something, or like a boolean, right? You can only have a string plus a string, right? And there's a plus, and also there's something called a multiply. It's basically a duplicate. So this is the only time where you can do a string times an integer. So if I did like high and like times two, all it'll do is give me high twice in the same, it'll like combine high twice, right? And if it was like three instead of two, right, you get like high, high, right? This is just duplicates it, right? So that's the only time where you're able to um do a string times an integer, but most of the time it would be doing strings plus a string. So just make sure whenever you're doing a string plus a string, the two things you're adding are both strings, right? And what happens when you add a string is it'll basically just connect it, right? And this will just equal high, high, right? So kind of just be like that. So do string operators make sense? Are we good with that? Okay. Hopefully we're good with that. So, and also we also learned about like this. This is only for print statements. So all we do is when we have a comma, right? When we're like printing, like print, right? Like hi, comma, by. All this will do is in our console, we'll see hi with this, like hi with a space and like by. That's it. That's it. We're basically just printing them on the same line with a space in between. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully we're good with that. Just remember any questions, just please just unmute and just let me know. So, and also when we also learn about like comments, right? Like when you have like unwanted code, you maybe just want to like not use it for a little bit, or like you have code that you just want to like annotate, right? You want to like write something in your code, like okay, this piece of code does this or something, right? Then we could just we there are two types of comments in Python that we need to know. Remember, there are these hashtags, right? And whatever you put after the hashtag is not considered as code. It's basically just considered as something that you typed in. Python won't read it as anything. It's just for you to just write stuff in, right? It won't do anything in your code, right? And you can also do these three quotation marks. So anything between these quotation marks are also all commented. So you can have like some stuff here, just write some stuff, anything in here, right? Anything in between these three quotation marks are all commented out. You can think of it as whatever in between, like you just put a bunch of hashtags inside, right? So and just the three single quotation marks. So how you just do it, it's the key to the left of your enter sign. Just do it one, two, three, and then one, two, three. And you should have three and three. You click enter, and whatever's in between these three are all commented out. So far, so good at class two. Are we following so far? Or any questions or anything like that? Okay, that's good. And then class three. So class three is probably when I started getting more into like a little more like it's starting to get harder, right? So class three is when we learn about like if the conditions, right? We learn about if else, right? And that's mostly has to do with the data type called a boolean, right? Remember, boolean can only have two values, either true or false, right? And true numerically is one and false numerically is zero. That's just something good to know. Just know that one is true and zero is false, right? So conditionals, there are only three types of conditionals in Python. If, else, and else if, right? So how it works is if it's just by itself, right? And you can have attributes to your if. You can have like extra things that you put on if, right? You can have like if condition, right? Do something, right? You can add like an else, do something, else do something, right? Or what you can do is you can do if, else if, condition, do something, else do something, right? Remember, all this will do is okay. If this if doesn't run, right? If the if condition is false, they'll just move on to the next one. Else if, right? Else if and you check this condition. If this condition is also false, then you move to the else. And else doesn't have any condition. So if doesn't run and this doesn't run, then this will run, right? It's just like a sequence of ideas. So is everyone very comfortable with if, else, if, and else? Because those are also very important. Like you'll be using it a lot. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys can just like, type a yes or no, I really appreciate it. I just want you guys, I just want to make sure that you guys understand everything. Okay. Because if you guys don't, then, I want you guys to understand it. So let's go to the next slide. So, Costa, we learned a lot of stuff. So apart from is if, else, if, and else, we also learned about, the comparison operators. So you only need to know five comparison operators in Python, right? The bigger than sign, less than equal to sign, bigger than or equal to sign, and not equal to sign. Right? Yeah, I'll send the slides after this class. So you can use this. This is probably be your best study material if you want to review. Okay. So remember we have five comparison operators, right? So the first one is just the bigger than sign. It means strictly bigger than, right? Like five is bigger than four. That's true. Five is bigger than five is false. This is false. This is true. Right. And then hopefully you guys know what the comparison operators do. It's kind of just like maybe in math you kind of read it like this. I don't know. But probably the only thing that's a bit special is the not equal to, right? Just exclamation mark equal to just means not equal to, right? We also learned about the logical operators. So the three types of logical operators that we learned. So we did learn a lot in this class, right? Or in this class three, right? There's the and, the or, and the not, right? And how the operation goes, or the order of operation goes, is you always do the not first, then you do the and, then you do the or, right? It just goes like in that order, right? So all this is just not, not a, it's just like not just gives you the opposite, right? So like true will become false and false will become true, right? And not like if it's like yeah, just know that if it's like not something, right? If that something turned out to be true, not true makes it false, right? And then if something is false and you have a not, it just becomes true, right? So if you guys also are you guys okay with the logical operators? Because you guys might have to like put some like write some logical operators in the next section. Hopefully you guys are okay. If you don't understand, you can also type like no too. If you it doesn't understand, like it's in private chat, so like no one will see your name if you're like embarrassed or anything. Like I'll be completely okay with explaining it again. If just type no or just like I don't understand something, then I'll go over it, okay? But if you guys do, just type yes, just so I can know I can move on. Okay, cool. And we was something about rounding. Rounding is not really important. Um, I don't really remember any questions that I had that you have to use rounding. So just that rounding is just round, you put in two parameters. So you guys remember what functions were, right? Just the number and the decimal place you want to round to. That's it. Um just you don't have to worry about rounding too much. I don't think you'll have to use it a lot, at least for the next module. But if you guys just want to know what it does, the slide's right there. Okay. So class 4 is probably a very important class, probably one of the more challenging classes that from like your guys' feedback. So I know it's pretty challenging, but hopefully you guys understand it by now, and please ask questions, and I appreciate it when you ask questions. Okay. So um class 4, right? We learned about while loops, for loops. We just learned about all types of loops, right? So remember while loops, right? While loops will run something until it is false, right? So until the condition is false. So remember that we drew like that one diagram, right? Like we have our condition, right? I'm just gonna call our condition C, right? If it's true, then we go into the block of code that does something, right? And if it's false, then we exit the loop. Nice. Right. So when we go in, right, we check is the condition true? Right, if it is, we go into the block of code. Right, and so we finish with the block of code. We finish all the lines inside that block of code. We go back into the condition, check if it's true. If it is, run it, run the block of code. Go back. If it's true, run it again. If it's false, then we exit. Right. So remember, and the only thing you need to watch out for in a while loop is if the condition is never false, right? Then you run into something called an infinite loop, which is not good, and it'll crash your program. So you don't want an infinite loop. And a lot of times, in your program, if you get something called a time limit exceeded and you're using a while loop, like I'd say 60% of the chance, or maybe 70% of the chance, is because your condition is never false, right? Your condition is always true, which is probably it's not a good thing, right? You want to have a way to exit your while loop, or else you're gonna have a lot of problems. Okay.
Hello?
So oh yes, sorry, did someone say something?
Oh yeah, I you froze for like 10 seconds. Can you
Oh,
repeat
frozen.
what you just
Okay.
said?
Oh yeah, no worries. I can just say what I said again. Yeah, cool. No worries. Okay. So um all I basically just said is sometimes, right? In the next module, so the program it'll basically say, okay, you're gonna have a problem and you want to solve that problem, right? And what's gonna happen is sometimes they want to give you a certain time limit. You like, okay, not a time limit for you to solve the problem, but when you run your code, your program will have a time limit to finish all the code. And don't worry, the time limit itself is very, very lenient because your code itself can run really fast. Remember, in our first class, it can run like 100 million operations a second, right? So the constraint itself is very like you'll have like 5 seconds for your program will have 5 seconds to run everything, which is 90% of the time very, very like it's very, very lean. You'll be fine, right? But the only time you might have a time limit exceed is when there's an infinite loop. That just means your program will never exit the loop, so it'll just keep on running it for the whole 5 seconds, right? And then then you have a time limit exceed. So whenever you see a time limit exceeded and you have a while loop, most of the time, or at least 70% of the time, is because you have an infinite loop. So just be careful about that. Make sure your condition inside your while loop is okay. It has a way to become false, right? You can exit it somehow. You can exit the while loop somehow. Okay. So yeah, just be careful for that. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have erased it. And a for loop behaves kind of similarly. Also, yeah, thanks for asking that question. That was a good question. Okay. And if for loop behaves, similarly, right? Instead, but instead of a condition, now we have a range, right? And all we do is for the variable in range. Most of the time, we'll be using I. Just be careful. You don't want to, like, yeah, it'll just be like most of the time the variable is called I, but you can name it whatever you want. Just make sure you access it using the same name that you define that as, right? So if I named it for I in range, then inside the for loop I would be if I wanted to use the I would just call it I and I like dog or something, right? But if I did like for um Python in range or something, right? Inside the while loop I would call it by Python and I wouldn't call it by like I don't know, like Java or something, right? Like something like that, right? So, and also how the for loop works is basically we have an initial, right? So in here we just define this range, right? If we just give it a number, it'll automatically define it so it'll go from 0 to that number, but not including this number, right? So if I for a range, if I put in 4, right, I give like 0, 1, 2. That's where these are the values this variable will go to. And how this variable increments itself is it goes, so this condition, it'll check if, is this variable, right, less than the number I put in, right? Is this variable less than the number I put in here, right? And all it'll do, if it's true, then we just run everything in the code, go back, and we make the variable increase by 1, right? So now the variable, if it started at 0, now it'd be 1, right? We check, okay, is 1 less than 4? If it is, we just go back, increase the variable by 1. 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. You go into the thing, finish it, go back, plus 1. 3 less than 4, go back. It is, go back, increase by 1. Is 4 less than 4? No, so we exit. So does a for loop make sense and a while loop? Are we good with that or still confused? Maybe I can explain it again if you guys want. No worries about that. Is everyone okay to move on? Good. Um, yeah, okay. Hopefully you guys are okay to move on. Just let me know, please. Remember, just let me know if you have any questions, okay? And we also learned about the pass and termination controls. So pass controls is just the continue. Remember, if we once we reach the continue, we instantly just go back to the top, right? So we instantly go back to maybe I have my drawing back. Sorry, one second. Wait, so whenever we reach a continue here, all it'll do is it'll just instantly go back. So once we reach the continue, I don't care whatever's after continue, we just go back up here. That's it. Right. And break once we once we reach a break, I literally don't care what is after the break, we instantly exit. That's it. So yeah. Breaks, they can be very powerful. Just make sure you break at the right time and you don't exit early or like yeah. Okay. So these are used to just manipulate loops. Like you can skip some things. You can just exit whenever all that. What do you mean like what symbols? Like you mean how you write it in Python? Good question, by the way. Oh, okay, cool. Maybe it'll be better if I just wrote it actually instead of explaining it. So, GD. So, remember, if you guys just want to have like a quick thing that you can write, just go to online GDB, and go to Python 3. So let's just write a for loop right now. So I'm gonna say, um, hmm, let's just say my number equals to 2. And I give it a, so are you familiar with how for loops work? Are we good with for loops? Yes, okay, cool. So for I in range, let's say 4. So you're okay with how this works, right? So I should see 0, 1, 2, 3 in the console. And I do. Right. I saw 0, 1, 2, 3 in the console. So let's just see what happens when I do this. So if I equals to my number, what we're gonna do is right. So what this will do, let's see what happens. Okay. Instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, right? See right here, the 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's see what happens when I run this again. It's only 0, 1. Right? Like what happened, right? What happened? So what this did is once Okay, once I was equal to two, right? When I was equal to two, I went to this is the do something part, right? The part that I'm highlighting, right? This is the big chunk of code, right? I said, okay, if I, which is two, is equal to my number, so is two equal to two? Yes, right? So then I reach this break statement. So when I reach this break statement, um, I don't care whatever's next. I don't care whatever's after it. All I do is I instantly just leave the loop. Right. I just leave. Right. Like I just exit the loop completely. Right. Like I don't care whatever's codes next. I don't care what my variable is, whatever. I break once I leave, I just exit. That's it. No, I'm like here. Right. So I can just do like maybe this might be easier too. I can just do like once I'm outside, I can like exit. Right. And you can see that once I reached two, I just exited the loop, right? And if I didn't have this, then I should see 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it exits. Because when it hits four, four is not less than four, right? Like four less than four is false. So remember, when the condition is false, I exit the loop. So I also exit when it's whatever, right? So does that kind of make sense on how break statements work? Are you okay with that? The break statements? Okay. Do you want me to go over continue, or are you okay with that as well? Or yeah, let me go over continue. So if I equals to my number, so, right, let's just see what happens. Right, let me just see what happens. So you can see that the 0, 1, 2, 3 exited right now. Let's see what happens when that happens. Oh, well, where'd the two go? Right. So remember, when we have our continue, once we reach the continue, it's not like break. We don't exit a loop. We don't, right? But rather, right, all we do is just we skip whatever is after and we just go back here. That's it. Right. So once we just see the continue, we just go back here. And that's it. Or we just skip whatever is after. I don't really care what's after. I just go back in and I increment I by one. So all this will happen is when it's zero, you go in. This is false because zero is not equal to two, right? And then we just print zero, right? And then we increase I by one, so now I is one, right? And is one equal to two? It's not, right? So this doesn't run. So now we print one. And now go back up here, increase I by one. That's two, right? Two is still less than four, so we just go G, right? So is two equal to two? Yes, right? That's when we reach continue. So that's once we reach the continue, we just instantly go back up. We don't run this print line. That's why you don't see the two right here, right? And once it goes up here, all we do is just increment I by one, right? Now I is three, right? Three is still less than four, right? Is three equal to two? It's not. Just print three, right? Go back up, right? Is three increment I by one. So now I is four. It's four less than four is not. So we just exit it. Does that make sense? Oh, okay. I can run it again if you want. Yeah. So that's what we just said. Okay. Does that make sense? How break and continue works? Cool. Now come on. So in class 5, we learned about functions. Again, luckily, you guys won't have to learn about functions a lot in module 2 because uh the the way you have to use functions in algorithms might be a little confusing. Something called recursion. If maybe you guys have heard of it, but it might be too hard to explain. Uh, but because I just want you guys to understand the basics of Python first and just the basic like thinking of you know, algorithms and stuff because that's like how you guys get started. Right? So, um, functions basically just remember we have a definition. If you are def name, give us some parameters. Then we call it by the name, and we give the parameters a definition. So that's it. Does that make sense? Are we good with that? Hopefully functions work. Okay. Remember, any questions, just let me know. Okay. Class 6, this might have been the harder class as well, because we're learning about our three data structures where we have our lists, tuples, and sets. Right. So lists you're going to be using a lot, and maybe sets as well, and probably dictionaries as well. So lists, right? Lists are mutable, heterogeneous, and written as the brackets, right? Tuples and sets are both immutable, and everything is heterogeneous. All the data structures we learned in that class are all heterogeneous, right? And what puts a set like different from a list and a tuple is sets can only store unique numbers, right? No duplicates, right? And the written has those curly braces right there. And are you guys familiar with how we index things in a list? Remember our index starts at zero. Right? The first number is at index zero, the second number is at index one, third number index two, fourth number index three. Are we good with indexing? Think we're good with okay. Good. Okay, cool. And then also data structure functions, right? Within but the append basically just add a value to the list.append. Add that value to the end of the list. Right? Just remove that value from the list. Right? Length prints how many values are in the list. Right? So if my list has like one, two, three inside of it, there's three values inside of that list. So len just gives us three. Sort just sorts it from smallest to biggest. Sorted will give us the values sorted alphabetically. Right? Reverse just reverses the list. Right. You can also just do, if you want to like take a shortcut, you can also just do this. Basically just two colons and a negative one. That also reverses a list and it also reverses a string as well. Makes sense? Everything from class 6 makes sense? Sorry, I'm just going a bit fast. I'll like go to the project. Yeah. Class 7, hopefully you guys remember more dictionaries, right? And some more methods and stuff. Remember dictionaries, key value pair. Remember how you add a key or add a key value pair. Let's do dictionary equals a value. You can only access a dictionary by the key. Does dictionaries make sense? Could we everyone still remember dictionaries? Are we good with that? Good, good, cool. Okay. Okay. So yeah, that's it. That's everything we learned. It's all condensed into one slide. So, or into like a few slides. So if you guys just have any questions, I guess, just these slides will be posted. You can also come to the next TA hour. Okay. So I'm just gonna move on now. If you guys have any questions, just please interrupt me. Okay. So let's go over the final project, right? So the final project is this, is everyone familiar with how Wordle works? Okay, cool. So hopefully you guys know how Wordle works. So all it is Wordle is you're trying to guess a word, a hidden word, right? So you have 6 tries to guess a hidden word, right? And each time you're just gonna put in a 5-letter word, right? And what will happen is that word will either appear as, yellow if it's in the word but not in the right position, and green if it's in the word and in the right position. And gray was mean it's not in the word, it's just not in the word. That letter is not in the word, right? The word that you want to get. Right? That's it. It's just a simple word guessing game, right? But let's just play a Wordle. Let's just play today's Wordle. Okay, I haven't played today's Wordle. So let's just play today's Wordle. Let's see what happens. Right. So what 5-letter word do you guys want to guess? I'm trying to go fast because it's already 7:50 or 44. So, okay. So you can see that, you know, uh, R, G, and E are all yellow. That means R, G, and E are in the word, but R is not in the third position, G is not in the fourth position, and E is not in the fifth position. But they're in the word, but not here and here and here. Any other guesses? And you can see that S and U are not in the word. Any other guesses or words? Oh, okay. So great. You can see that R is not here as well. E is not here. A is not here, and G is not here. Ruger is that a word? I don't know. That might not be a word. Yeah, sometimes it has to be a standard English word. But in our program we won't have that. Any other guesses? Come on, guys, just throw me some five-letter words and then we can just quickly finish this. Anger. Oh, here. That was a good word. So now you can see that G is in this position, E is in this position, R is in this position. And A is not in this position. It's in the word, but not in this position. Right, so A is probably here. So we have like something, A-G-E-R, rager. Oh, well, you can see that. Okay, now A is here, G is here. Right, now we have one word, one letter left. So what do you guys think? Danger is a six-letter word. Remember, it has to be a five-letter word. Only five letters. Danger. Oh shoot, it's Hasti. Last guess. What do you guys think? And we're gonna come on. It's already 46. Hager. Let's see, that's the word. Oh, it's not. Unlucky. It was Lager. That's funny. Okay, so yeah, you can see that if we didn't correct, then we just say like you lose. But if we put in Lager, then we would have won. And okay, so let's just quickly go over this how we're gonna do it. So this is actually here. Now, do you guys want to throw me some ideas? Like, what do you think we would use to make this in Python? So our Python thing is just gonna be like, okay, we're gonna give the user six tries, right? And if the user guesses it in six tries, yeah, we're of course gonna have input, right? How might we make the user guess six times, maybe? Like from our homework, maybe. Yeah, of course, we're gonna use a while loop, right? We're gonna let we're gonna use a for loop as well. We can use a for loop or a while loop. We're gonna of course have if statements, right? These are great ideas. Yeah, if, else if, great. Yeah, we're gonna have print as well. Yeah. Oh yeah, an answer, right? We're gonna have like a target word, right? Okay. Yeah, cool. These are some great ideas. So here I also just wrote a little pseudocode, right? There's these four steps, right? So first we're gonna have to decide our word, our target word, right? And we're gonna let the user input the word until the amount of tries runs out, or the user guesses correctly. Because the user can also guess it first try, right? You can guess on the first try and we just say you win, right? Or the user can guess it maybe on the third try, the fourth try, maybe the last try, right? The user can guess it, right anytime. And as long as the user guesses it within six tries, they win. Right? Otherwise, they lose. Right? And we're gonna match the letters based on the rules of Wordle, and we're gonna check if the user won or not. Right? So let's just quickly get started, right? Um, so let me go back onto oops. Let me quickly go back onto whatever. Let me quickly go back onto online GDB, and then let's just quickly make thing, right? So you guys said everything that we need, right? We're gonna need okay. Also, I want everyone to just go on online GDB right now. Go on this language part, Python 3, and just follow along to what I write. Okay. So you guys will also have like your riddle as well, right? So let's just quickly get our answer, right? And if you guys remembered, like, for now, let's just get our answer. So I don't know. Today's answer word was later or something, whatever, right? So equals, let's just say our answer, our word is later, right? So, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna see, we're gonna give it amount or times guessed. So this words, all we're gonna do is we're gonna keep track of how many times the user guessed the word. That's it, right? And we're just gonna let the user guess it once, right? So does anyone want to write how we're gonna do an user input? Like how might we do a user input? I mean, okay. I guess maybe we can write the while loop first, so we can just like while times guess is less than 6. You guys agree with that? Is that okay? Because remember, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Because all of these numbers are less than 6, so this will give us 6 times this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? If we were to do less than or equal to 6, since this starts at 0, right? This will let us this will let us guess 7 times, which is not what we want, right? We let the user guess 6 times, right? So let's just do our input, right? Guess equals to input. Yes, right. And also, also what we can do, right, is we can, in order to make it more fun, right? Let's just do this. We're gonna do list or like the current state, right, equals to this. So all this will do is one sec. All this will do is it'll just print out, right, these unfilled boxes. And once we fill in a box, right, we can just, fill it in, right? If the correct letters A was filled in A, right? If the correct letters R filled with like R, right? That's what we want to do, right? So now we have a guess, right? Now we need to go check our Wordle rules, right? Is the letter in the right position, uh, and in the right place? Is the letter in the word but not in the right place, or is the letter, not in the word and not in the right place, right? So how we do that is we want to go through every single character in guess, right? So for example, if our guess was, I think our first guess was like search, right? I want to see, okay, is S in the word, is U in the word, is R in the word, is G in the word, and is E in the word, and also is every single letter in the word in the right place, in the word and not in the right place, or not in the word at all, right? So how might we be able to check every single character in the word? What might we use? Like what thing we use? Like what we use? Like what might we be using? Maybe like a for loop, maybe, right? Like we can probably use a for loop, right? Because remember, we can also index a string, right? That's also possible. So if I did like for I in guess, this should work, right? This would basically go through every single character in guess one by one, right? Oh, and maybe we should do like our for range so we have an index to work with, right? And we're gonna go through the length of guess. And all this will do is it'll give us every single character in guess if we were to do guess. Oh, does this make sense so far? Okay. So now let's check if the guess is in the same position as the word, right? And also, yeah, let's just check that, right? So how we check this is if yes, I is equals to answer. Oh, does that make sense? So this would check if word or if letter in the word and in the right place. Does that make sense? Why? Because well, if we're checking in the position, right? If we're checking this G, and our guess was also, something that's G, right? Like I don't know, or something, right? If we're checking this character and we're checking, okay, in this position, they're both G. Well, that means the letter that we guessed has to be in the word and in the right place, right? Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Hopefully it does. Any questions? Stop me, just let me know. Okay. And also what we're gonna do, now we'll just make current state I equals to yes. I. Right. So now all we do is if it's in the right place, we just make that third position G. Just so we show it. right? Okay. So now here, now we can do else, else if, with. Now we're gonna check the word is in the letters in the word, but not in the right place, right? Now I can just do word or sorry, answer dot find, right? Our guess, right? So this is our letter, right? And we want to see, does this letter exist in answer, right? And all how we do it is, so if you guys remember from our find function, right? Find will return -1 if it's not in the string, right? And all we can do is we can just do this. Current string equals to, remember guess is a string. Since guess I is a string, we can do guess plus star. So all this will do is just tell us, okay, if it's like a star, that means A is not in the it's not in the right position, but it's in the word. Right? We just do that. Right. And otherwise we just don't do anything, right? Because it's not in the word and it's not in the right place. Right? Just nothing, right? Nothing will happen. Right. So now all we're gonna do, now that we went through this word, all we can do is increase the times guessed by 1. Right? Because that was we guessed it once, right? We guessed it once. Now we just increase the guess by 1. Times guessed by 1. Right? And now once we exit, right? There are two cases that we exit. Oh, also quickly in here, right? We're gonna check if times guessed, or sorry, if the guess is equal to the answer, then we just print you in. Because well, the user want, right? The guess is equal to the answer. This just helps us, it'll look nice, and then when we do it, right? So we just print you in. And also here we just print our current state, right? And this will basically just get rid of these pesky little brackets, right? Just get rid of the brackets, right? And now all we have to do, break. Once we whatever, right? Remember, once we hit break, we just exit this while loop. Just exit the while loop, right? And once we're over here, right, now we go if times guessed. If times guessed is bigger than or equal to 6, we print you this. And why do I need this? It's because if I hit this break statement here, that means the user won, right? And if I hit this break statement here, that means that, oh, and I should put this after. And I should put this after. Because if the user, hit this here, right? Hit this here, right? And they won the 6th try, right? That means that, or they won on their 6th try, but guess is still 5 because we haven't incremented yet, right? If the user won early, we still would break, right? So we just want to check, okay, has the user guessed, 6 times or more, right? If they guessed 6 times or more, that means they lost, right? Or if they guessed more than 6 times, they lost, right? So you just use this, right? Dot dot dot. So well, let's try it. Let's see what happens, right? Also, oh, and I shouldn't have this anchor right here. That's just for an example. So, and let me make this like a little bit. Oops. Oh, okay. Okay. So let's just make it a little more pretty. So guess a word. Let's just guess search, like how we did before, right? And let's just compare it with what happened here, right? So search. So I should see that it should be, it should be based on how we did it and what happened here. It should be blank, 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 um, R star, G star, and E star, right? Because that just means R is not in the right position, G is not in the right position, E is in the right position. That's just our way of marking it as yellow, right? So let's see what happens when I click enter. And you can see that's exactly what happened, right? R star, G star, E star. That just means it's in the word, not in the right position, right? And let's just go. We guess grade next. So now we should see G star, R star, E star, A star, and nothing. Right? Oh, sorry. We should see we should see actually here. Um Now think about it, this might not be a good way of doing it. Um I had another way of doing it, but I think that might have been a little uglier. So let me just do this instead of actually we should just do this. So there is a way that we can do this. Let me stop this thing real quick. So there is a way we can do it. This just looks a little bit ugly. So all we're gonna do is if it's in the word and not in the right position, all we're gonna do is print letter. Yes, I is in the word but not in the right position. That's it. Right. So let's just go again. So we should see that G, A, and E all happen, right? Oh, sorry, I guessed later. So search, right? So we can see letter R is in the right word but not in the right position. G is in the word but not in the right position, and E is in the word but not in the right position, right? And we printed this, nothing happened, right? So now let's just guess. Great. And we should see G, R, E, and A are in the right word but not in the right position, right? Next time we go anger, right? We should only see A, and we should see G, E, and R get filled inside of here, right? G, E, R get filled inside of here. So we're almost done, right? Cool, right? And now we go Rager, right? Nothing happens, but R is in the word but not in the right position, right? Because we guessed Rager right here, this R right here. And once we guess later, we print you in. Yay, right? Cool. And if we were to do ours, right, we didn't win, right? Surge, great, anger, and Rager, Cager, Pager. And unfortunately, we lost because we didn't get the word. After six tries, right? We guessed one time, twice, three times, four times, five times, six times. So does this make sense? This is a very simple Wordle. You could have done this as well, but in this case, then we would do this instead. We have like two, and we have our correct letters, right? Because every single time we want to have the correct letters get shown up. It's almost the same. Um, does it work? If it works, then that's good. But if it didn't work, then that's not good. I can copy the code in here. I do have one I made a while ago. That has like all the greens and yellows and stuff. So you can also try it later if you want, just to understand how the code works. The code that I wrote might be a little confusing. So this is like the simpler version of it. So hopefully you guys can understand how this works. Kind of just incorporated everything that we learned, right? There's for loops, if statements, lists, integers, inputs, strings, indexing. It inputs like a lot of the things that we learned. That's why I chose Wordle. Also it's also 8:04. I think it's pretty late for you guys. I'm sure like maybe you guys want to go to sleep or something. I don't know. So do you guys have any questions about this? And we'll continue everything next class. Because this class, not a lot of people, so I don't really want to go through a lot of stuff everyone's gonna miss out. So um program finished with exit code one. Can you send me your code? You just paste it in the chat. I just want to see it. And just make sure you copy this code line by line. Please just note, don't do any like shortcuts or anything, unless you're sure it works. But this is kind of like the most basic, like the not the most basic, like as an easy, it's just like the 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 simplest way you can write the same program to get it to work. Okay. So, okay. Oh, okay. Here, you could just copy my code. I pasted it in the chat already, so that code will work. Um, so you can just copy that and then hopefully it'll work. Um, yeah, so if the print statements, if they're not the same, that's fine. Just make sure you get the same output and it just works. Okay. So you can't copy it. I think you should be. Okay, that's fine. I'll paste it in the Google Classroom as